Hey, good afternoon, guys. Great seeing you guys again, and I see all the faces in front of me, which means it's getting closer and closer to football time, and we are certainly, like a lot of programs around the nation, feel the excitement and the buzz of just being able to, get out there, get to work, and we're right in the middle of training camp. We've got 10 practices in, and a lot of guys competing for starting positions. I think we've seen a noticeable jump from the spring through the summer to where we are in training camp right now in a number of positions, a number of guys sticking out in a very positive way. We added double-digit numbers, scholarship players after spring football, with a lot of guys that just joined us for the first time in June and July, and you see some of these guys are going to be able to make an immediate impact for us, and it's coming together, we feel like, very nicely. I think we're in a very healthy position, physically and mentally. We've Coach Cole and our strength and conditioning coach and their staff, I feel like, has done an outstanding job preparing the guys through summer conditioning and training for the hard that's been presented in training camp. And our team has been handling what we've been presenting to them in a very mature and positive way. So a lot of schemes been implemented right now throughout the first 10 practices. OD and special teams, and we're going to continue to work some situational football throughout the rest of this week. Get to Saturday with our second preseason scrimmage. Start settling in on some guys with some positions as we get into this third week, getting into opponent prep, and then I think we're right at 18 days away for preparing ourselves for at Maryland, 12 o'clock, and then coming back home against Coastal for the next week. For Holy Cross the next week.
Settle too deep into those position battles, but there's a lot of buzz, especially locally, about fighting for the quarterback spot. What are you looking to see differentiation between those topics?
I think so much of the quarterback position is, number one, leadership and decision-making. We're presenting these guys with a number of scenarios and then also some situations where we're letting them just put the ball down, everybody get off the sideline, watch guys play. A lot's been made of, two Western New York natives and Matt Myers and Cole Snyder, kind of hometown heroes, guys that are battling out for that job. But, you got another guy like Casey Case who is doing a really, really good job. So there's a lot of clarity. We had an opportunity at the beginning of training camp to sit all the quarterbacks down. We also brought in a Mike DePillo from Michigan over the summer as a scholarship player, and we have Brian Plummer from Maryland who's doing a good job as well as a redshirt freshman. But we set them all down individually. We kind of laid out some objectives and some clear things that we wanted to see throughout training camp that we felt like was going to ultimately be the deciding factor of who we named the starter. We're still going to let these guys battle it out. We have our second preseason scrimmage on Saturday. We'll probably sit them down after Saturday as we get into probably Monday or Tuesday, and eventually, before we get to Maryland prep at the middle of next week, name that starter going into Maryland.
And like you said, 10 days in, 18 to go until it's really game time. Having this first true full offseason under your belt, how are you feeling, even just generally? What are the vibes with this locker room and the chemistry you've got going?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of trust right now that's just been built, and you can only present it and manufacture it through time and consistency, and good consistency over long periods of time really develops that trust, and that trust kind of breeds a real confidence into the locker room, really an unshakable confidence where, we've been through something hard together. Guys have played football together now really over 8 months, and there's a lot of familiarity with what we're asking them to do. We know we're like a lot of teams right now, cleaning up MAs, making sure we play sound football, getting our play style right, making sure we're fundamentally technically sound. Smarter teams are better teams, so we present them with a lot of situations. But just having the February, the March, the April, the May, the June and July, being able to just put them through a lot of difficult situations and watch them grow and respond through those things has put us in a very, very healthy position, we feel like.
How much of an adjustment has it been for you being in the same spot and not having to rush into things this time?
Well, it's been a good adjustment. It's a little bit different when you're probably like 90 days, 100 days before you play a game to and then not only are you playing a game, you're hiring 35 people, you're still adding a lot of people to your roster, and really the way that the kind of recruiting and the roster development is right now is your roster's really not settled. If you kind of see how the maturation of our roster's kind of presented itself really until like late late July, kind of heading into that, heading into August training camp, because, we recruit 24/7, 365. You're always trying to grow and build the talent and the ability of your locker room. But just having the time to really have uninterrupted time with the coaches, lay things out in a very clean manner, present clear objectives that we want to accomplish throughout our phases and objectives throughout spring and summer and training camp is something that we're really thankful and fortunate for right now.
Does it feel any or much different for you from a comfort level being in your second year, not being a first-year head coach?
I think so. I think that's very fair. I think anytime you go through something, you gain experience, you gain knowledge. I think if you're very critical on yourself, and I don't think there's anyone more critical on myself than me, because you're always trying to find, what do you need to emphasize? What do you need to change? What do you need to adjust? How can you do this better? How can you teach something better? How do you structure this in a different way? And then you learn your people. And the time that we've had to really learn and understand our people, in addition with just the knowledge and the experience of having gone through things, I think has put us in a more confident and prepared position. The shortened time that we had is something that's very real, but there are also a lot of things where we wanted to peel back the layers on the onion and see, okay, what do we need to do differently to improve and grow this roster, to teach things in a more dynamic, better way, to connect with guys in a better way, to put us in the best position to be successful. And I think we've just had a really, really good offseason, really great spring and summer, and I just like where we are right now.
With all that roster transition that you touched about, 2 weeks into camp, are you getting close to the tipping point where the new guys aren't new anymore?
Listen, well, it's kind of different because we have new, but there's some of them are older. So they understand, the time that we're in right now in terms of training camp and the purpose of training camp, and so much of the objective of training camp is finding out who you can depend on. Having guys present themselves in a way that can be trustworthy on a consistent basis, getting guys familiar with what we're asking them to do from a schematic standpoint, and I think it's fortunate for us. We got a kind of there's a balance of we do have a lot of younger good players, and then we got some older guys that have been through it that are just new to us. And I think the obstacle and the objective now is just kind of blending and meshing some of that new older guys with some of these returning guys, and it starts with just really moving ego and pushing it to the side. And if we can all work to what's in the best interest of the team and helping us win, which is what this locker room and these guys have done, it's how you win. It's what winning football looks like. And I'm really proud of some of the guys that James Patterson and Keon and some of these guys that have come back. They're older guys. They've been through it and they've opened their arms and welcomed guys in. Gabe Wallace is another guy that jumps out, and it's led us to really a very healthy environment and throughout 2 weeks of training camp.
The target for next week to mean the starting quarterback, does that apply just to the quarterbacks or to all?
I think when you get through that second preseason scrimmage, it's fair to say that we're going to really start, identifying, much is made about, okay, who's the actual starter. I'll tell you what, in football, that starting quarterback is so important. I'm going to tell you who the second most important guy is, the backup quarterback, because you're really one play away. So it's not you don't want this big roller coaster of emotion, but we have to, obviously name a guy to get him ready to go out there and say, hey, this guy's going to be going out against Maryland. We're going to support the heck out of him and make sure that every single person in that locker room pours into the support of that guy. But we know how football goes and football is. We got to make sure that everybody, there's no one that can stay stagnant in our program. Everyone has to be prepared to play. And really, the way a season goes is, there's going to be an unlikely hero. There's going to be a guy that maybe is a third string guy right now that's going to make a play for us somewhere throughout this season that's going to help us win a game, and we have to continue to develop and grow every single person in that locker room in a very healthy way, where no one's waiting to play. We're continuing to prepare to play. So, yeah, next week we'll probably get to name a starter at that position at quarterback and multiple other positions. But, guys, we need everyone ready, and I just think that's the nature of college football, and that's how you grow and build your depth. Something I learned from Mike McCarthy with the Dallas Cowboys is, how many different guys they played when they were in Green Bay throughout a championship season, and I think we're no different. We got 110 guys in that locker room right now, and we're trying to get every single one of them ready to play.
So understanding that there's only one position and that you also still have a competition going on, what do you need out of your quarterback to ultimately get to where you're trying to go?
Sure. I think from a very practical standpoint, you're looking at, the flow and the pace and the tempo of the offense, who can get us in and out of the huddle, first downs, chunk plays, explosive plays, ultimately lead us to consistency and drives that lead to points and touchdowns. I think from a film watching, from a tangible standpoint, we're looking at those things. The leadership position is so critical with that spot. The toughness and the grit of your team is really not going to be too far away from the toughness and grit of that player. And I think really a lot of your team a lot of times takes on the identity of what that quarterback and who that guy is. So there's also what we want you to do, and then there's also who you are. I think the fortunate thing for us right now is that Casey Case, a young guy, has showed an incredible amount of leadership. Matt Myers, older guy, been through it. He's the same quarterback that we were a couple plays away from knocking off Northern Illinois with him taking at the starting position last year, and we lost that game in overtime. He's got a ton of experience, and he hasn't missed a beat in terms of where his mind is and staying steady and pacing himself the right way. And then Cole Snyder, he came in as a transfer, and he's just operated as a pro. He's a first one in, last one out type of guy. I think everyone respects how they operate and who they are, and I think we really have a lot of good options in terms of the guy we're going to actually name. And again, everyone's got to stay ready. We got to stay alert. We got to be present. It's going to be a long season, and when you plan on playing in championships and having those type of seasons, we know there's a lot of games that are going to be played. We start in August. We hope to end in late December, January, and then we'll go from there.
Speaking of Keon and a couple other guys that are on these award watch lists, is your philosophy to help them tap into that mindset, or are you trying to get them to block it?
I think, one thing, we watched a clip with Giannis, the basketball player, the all-star guy from the Bucks, and I showed it to the team. And if you guys ever get a chance to take a look at it, it's a pretty impactful 2-minute soundbite that he had after one of his games. And one of the reporters asked him about, so much is made about him being the scoring champ, and he doesn't talk about those things a lot. And why is that? And it all went back to the overall commitment and the success of the team, and that team success is going to lead to that individual success. You look at these teams that end up winning national championships at the end of the year, and they have all these guys drafted. Everybody thinks they have guys drafted because they're good players. Well, another thing is they get a lot of guys drafted because of the team's success, because people ultimately want winners. We're certainly excited about James Patterson on the Butkus and the Bronco and all these preseason award watch lists that he's on. Keon Williams is on the Bolitnikoff. I think we got Damon Williams on the Outland. We have Max Michelle, Good Works team, and Warfel as well. And Ron Cook is on the Paul Hornick. So we got a number of guys that have those individual accolades that have been named, preseason watch list, national type players. But ultimately, that team success that we have is going to pour down to every single piece of this program, and that rising tide is going to raise all the ships that are on it. So, we talk a lot, we preach, and really, pound the table with team first, and that's our identity and mindset. And I'm just thankful that we got a lot of older, mature guys that handle that the right way.
When it comes to the O-line, obviously figuring out that's sort of the starting five, you've got one returner. What is the identity that you're seeing there?
Yeah, we got a big, strong offensive line right now. We got a Nick Hartnett that came in from VMI, who was an all-conference player. He's 315 pounds. We got a Des Basent that came in with us throughout the spring. All he did was just show up every single day, work his tail off, and he's 6'5", over 300 pounds. Isaiah Wright is a guy to keep an eye on that's doing very, very well as a younger player that's fighting and battling for a starting position as well. Jack Haas is a guy that technically we don't name as a returning starter, but we feel very good about his ability and what he's doing. And then Gabe Wallace, he's a mountain of a man, and he's a huge human being, and he does a great job in terms of his play style and his leadership. We feel like we got a lot of great size and length, and I don't want to call it potential because it's happening. We're realizing that potential that we have, and we feel like we're in a pretty healthy place at the O-line spot. Going against the type of D-line that we have every single day has made those guys better.
Has your team been impacted by injuries at all in the first 2 weeks of camp, or has everything been relatively healthy?
It's Coach Jeremy Cole, our strength coach, who I feel like is the best strength coach in the United States of America. He does a great job. Coach James Heiss, who's our second command in the strength and conditioning department. Emily Galbraith, who does all of our dietitian and nutrition. She's our sports dietitian that we have with the guys. We're healthy, and it's because of, the two things have to happen. We have to present the plan the right way, and guys have to follow that plan. So from a, daily intake of hydration, what they're eating, getting the 8 hours of sleep at night, making sure that they have their water bottles throughout the day and they're hydrating themselves, kind of knock on wood like most coaches, just want to make sure we stay healthy, but we're in a very healthy place, and that's been a very positive for us over the 2 weeks of training camp.
Well, you've got, I think it's about a dozen Power 5 transfer kids amongst that core of new. That group in specific, how they fit in, how have they elevated this team based on where they came from and what they can do?
I think the thing we start with any time we add, anyone to that locker room, I think who you are is so critical, more than what you can do. Obviously, what you can do matters, but who you are ultimately matters the most. And I think from the onset, we wanted to identify types of people that we felt like fit us best. Doesn't matter if you were, 4 years left or 2 years left or 1 year left, and everyone has a different story and a different path. There's no one linear perfect story for anyone. So we just spent some time getting to know people in the recruiting process, identifying the personality types that we felt like best fit us. And we felt like we hit some home runs with some guys that not only are they great people, but they're outstanding players as well. And when you blend those two things together and you have a mature locker room that doesn't make it about their own self, but really makes it about the success of the team, it's what it's allowed us to really feel like put us in a healthy position. Now we still have to go out there and play. We have a lot of guys that we're gonna ask to play in some big roles for us that maybe were not necessarily regular starters for us, but we feel like what we presented them with and what they've shown to be true on a consistent basis is gonna allow them to go out there and accomplish what we need them to accomplish on a weekly basis.
How do you handle expectations, and how do you relay that message to your team? Because I know some people are like, okay, we're going to take it a day at a time, and we hear that a lot. And then some people are like, okay, these are what the expectations are, and that's what we're going to work towards. Where do you kind of find yourself?
That's a great question. There's so many different messaging and messages that kind of surround any college football program, any Division I college football program. There's a lot of messages that go on. I think we cannot control outside messaging. I think the other day somebody had us at 10-3. Someone else had us at 5-7. So many of those things don't matter because we have to play the game. I understand the nature of college football, why everyone loves college football so much is because it's the excitement and the energy and all those things around it. But we can't control the outside messaging, but what we can control is the messaging in our four walls and where our focus is on a daily basis. Our expectations for these guys is to, number one, improve and grow every single day. And we lay that out in some very clear objectives. We start every single team meeting with what we call daily discipline, and it's 2 to 3 minutes of just straight culture in terms of how we're conducting ourselves on a regular basis. It's the small things like making sure our locker room is clean at 4 o'clock every single day, making sure that we're checked in and weighed in at that 7 a.m. time before that every single day, making sure we go throughout the day. 2 o'clock, you're late for lunch. 3 o'clock is treatment. 6:15, you're late for dinner. And just making sure that we, number one, do the small things the right way before we can get to the big things. Everyone does, maybe so to speak, some of these larger things the right way. But it's the details, right? It's the pride and detail in your work, doing all the small things the right way. And when we do that on a consistent basis, we feel like that allows us to really now lay out some real tangible on-the-field expectations that we lay out for our guys in a number of different ways. Again, no one has bigger expectations for this team and this program than me. But we certainly accept and understand, and they're warranted, different people's opinions and what they may think. But ultimately, Saturday at 12 o'clock at home against Coastal, at home against Holy Cross, on the road against Coastal, on the road against Eastern Michigan, that's what matters. And that we prepare ourselves for those moments, and we are our absolute best when our best is needed for those 60 minutes plus.
What do you think of the home road split of your schedule and the 7 of the first 10 games on the road?
I told Mark, man, come on now. Mark Allnut, our AD, I love him. He's the absolute best. It's just the way it laid out, right? It is what it is. I think everyone looks at schedules, and you kind of look at the anatomy of a schedule, and you can kind of look at it from 20 different angles and 20 different ways. At the end of the day, listen, here are the teams. Here's what we know. We take care of those 12. We'll get some more. We take care of one more. Maybe we'll get another one as well. And what we do is now you spend this much time, 0 seconds on all the angles and looking at it 19 different ways and prepare, right? As a player, your job is to prepare and perform. My job is on a daily basis to teach, lead these guys in the right way, and demand the absolute best and support them in a way that gets the absolute best out of them every single day. And if we put all our concentration and effort on those things, then we will prepare ourselves for the schedule that's in front of us and control what we can control, because we don't have a lot of control on how it's laid out right now. It is what it is, and we're ready to go take that on.
How important is New York State and Western New York if there's a D1 kid here?
Yeah, I think you saw maybe if you saw a week ago the graphic that we put out, there's not another college program in the United States of America. I'm going to say that again. There's not another Division I college program in the United States of America that has more New York high school athletes on their roster than the University at Buffalo. We take so much pride in in-state recruiting. We have a number of commitments that we just landed over the last 2 weeks of New York high school student athletes that committed to UB. We're so excited about those guys. Another thing is you'll see we've awarded scholarships to multiple Tajay Ahmed, Sean Dolak, New York high school guys that came to UB, walked on, did what they had to do, and then we awarded them that scholarship, and I didn't give it to them. They worked their way into getting those things, and they earned them the right way. We take a lot of pride in New York State football. We feel like we have some of the best high school football in the United States of America. Again, over half of our roster, about a third or 45% is New York high school kids, and we know that our success is tied to New York high school recruiting, and we take it very seriously. I think 7th year. Gio's working on his Giovanni Ruiz. He's working on his 3rd degree right now. I mean, you can't beat that now. That's squeezing everything you can out of scholarship now.
How is Gio doing in his recovery from the knee?
He's doing good. He's doing good. We're working him back in. The best thing I can tell you, he's mentally strong. He's a very mentally tough young man, and you don't see him miss a heartbeat in terms of like the way he interacts with all the guys. He's encouraging. He's extremely positive. We're very real. We know the situation. We got to get him healthy, but he's in a great mental state of mind, and he's working towards that. And I think he's going to make plays for us this year, and he's going to contribute this year. We just got to get him back ready to go and get him going.
You joke about him in his 7th year. I don't know if he's 25 yet or whatever his age is. You've also got Damian Jackson, who's 29. It's a little unusual. What dynamic has that brought to your team to have some literally older guys on the
Yeah, I think, football is it's kind of a bigger man's game, and it's kind of an older man's game a little bit when you're talking about maybe getting a 29-year-old, or you're talking about having a 23-year-old versus maybe an 18-year-old. I think you see a lot of maturity from those guys. I think you just feel the presence of, they've been through 2 to 3 to 4 years or maybe even 5 years of college football. And I think when you're a younger guy and you see that, you really kind of don't have any other option than just to kind of follow and let those guys lead the way. And I think that's what's taking place on our roster. We were able to kind of recruit and add to our roster with a lot of older guys, and it's just helped with our maturity of our football team. Thanks for all you guys do. See you guys throughout the fall. Thanks a lot, guys.